There are forces around us that we can feel, hear, and see, but to some, there is no explanation as to why. This podcast discusses everything that we as a society are taught to doubt. We interview our science and data-driven co-host to see if we can shift his perspective and get him to embrace the alchemist within. The winter solstice, the longest night, where we honor the dark to welcome the light. Grab your Yule goat and mulled wine as we discuss the pagan holiday, Yule. Hello and welcome to The Alchemist and the Academic. I am your host, Rebecca Finale, as The Alchemist, and I am here with Kurt Braddock as our academic. Kurt, thank you so much for being here.
Always more than happy to be here. Happy to be the academic.
Yes. So, we did put our intro episode out, but we will do a little background of why we are The Alchemist and the Academic. So, I am Rebecca Finale. I'm the host. I am an acupuncturist, herbalist, Reiki practitioner, tarot card reader, and birth doula. I also have my background in neuroscience, and I believe in all things occult, spiritual, metaphysical, and witchiness. And then we have Kurt here, our academic.
Who is maybe some of those things, but not nearly as much. I'm Kurt Braddock. I have a PhD in communication, although I have a focus in psychology, especially the psychology of violence, terrorism, extremism, radicalization, all these fun things. And at my core, I am what you would call an empiricist. I believe what I can see, what I can touch, what I can taste, what I can hear. I believe in data, and I believe that data is how we make sense of the world around us. But that said, I do have an open mind, and I want to learn about the things that Becca here has an in-depth knowledge about. So I am here as the skeptic.
Yes, and so the purpose of this podcast is to discuss all the things that I talked about before, and we are here to see if we can get our academic to broaden his perspective and
to subject the academic to a couple of experiences he wouldn't otherwise have, from what I understand.
Yes, which we are very excited about. So,
very excited.
This podcast is a conversation between two close friends, a nice juxtaposition of ideologies, and it's very casual. So we will start every podcast with a nice toast of a beverage. Always.
And although we might be on the separate sides of the spiritual aisle, we agree that alcohol is pretty great.
Yeah.
So there will likely be alcohol at every episode. We're going to keep it respectful, and we're going to keep it under control.
Yes.
But it'll make the conversation a lot more fun, and I'll become a lot more inquisitive each bit of whiskey that I have.
There you go. All right. So that being said, toast to our first episode.
Cheers to the inaugural episode. Here's to my learning a thing or two that I wouldn't otherwise.
Yes. Cheers.
And for the record, I have vodka soda. And also, Becca has vodka soda as well that I have ruined with a honey vodka, from what I understand.
Yes. It changed the flavor profile, but I will still drink it.
Only one way to go from here.
Because I am not wasteful. All right, so jumping into our first episode is the episode of Yule. So we will be covering 3 different pagan holidays, as we discussed in our intro episode, and this first one is Yule.
Which all I know about Christmas and its connection to Yule are the songs that I hear in relation to Yuletide, this and that. I didn't think anything of them until I met Becca and heard that it actually means something. So today I'm going to learn a bit about all of the background of Christmas. Of course, I grew up in a not very Christian. I mean, we were Episcopal. We went to church. We went on, Christmas Eve and all that stuff. And I know what I guess most kids probably knew about Christmas, but apparently there's more to it.
Oh, yes. Well, that was going to be... So this will actually be released on December 21st.
Okay.
which will be a topic.
Oh, that makes sense.
Episode.
See, this reveals my ignorance already. I thought we were releasing on December 25th.
No.
With my Judeo-Christian centric beliefs.
So what we're going to do is we're going to start with asking you, Kurt, a couple questions about your knowledge of Christmas, like what it means to you, your traditions, all that fun stuff. And then I will go into the aspects of Yule, which is a pagan holiday. I'm a witch, which is basically some people describe it as neo-paganism. So it's a form of paganism which you celebrate nature, the cycles of like solar celebrations. And Wicca is a practice of magic with that as well. So we'll go into the comparison of that. But let's start with, what does Christmas mean to you?
So I guess having grown up in a Christian family, it would be what probably most kids in America think Christmas has to do. Like, we know at some level it has to do, or we thought it has to do, with the birth of Jesus of Nazareth on supposedly December 25th, I guess 0 is when that was supposed to happen. So there are these two kind of strands that relate to Christmas when you're growing up. There is the religious strand, which is supposed to be surrounding the birth of, I guess, the savior of mankind. And then the other side, which has to do with a vague Scandinavian saint who gives gifts to good children and coal to bad children or who don't behave. There is also quite a bit about trees, and the forest seems to be a big theme in there that we don't really explore as we grow up. There's a lot of stuff to do with trees. There are a lot of Christmas carols that we sing, songs, which that's probably not too crazy. I'm sure people sing songs about all kinds of festivals, but there are a lot of songs in Christmas tradition that don't make any goddamn sense. So I wonder if that's going to come up. But to me, what Christmas always meant was, okay, this is when the savior of mankind, according to Christianity, Christian beliefs, was born in Nazareth, in a manger, somewhere. That's that one part. And then the other part is fat jolly guy gives you gifts if you are a good boy or girl.
So, well, before we even get into this, so how do you practice Christmas? Or how do you, how do you celebrate Christmas? Okay,
so I think the question to ask is, how would I celebrate Christmas? Because how you celebrate as a kid and how you celebrate as an adult is a little bit different. Okay. But the way that I would is, gift giving, give people gifts. You do things like you trim a tree. I guess that's part of the celebration. You put decorations on a tree. Food is involved, although it's not as central to Christmas as like maybe in Thanksgiving. But I would say the central tenet of celebrating Christmas is probably the gift giving.
Okay.
At least it was for me, which is exactly what all the Christmas carols say it shouldn't be. But fuck the carols. It's true.
All right. So let's get into this.
Let's do it. I'm so excited to learn as to why I was wrong in my 40 years or 43 years.
No. Not that it's wrong. Just so.
Oh, before we do, can I talk about the things that I've heard or read in passing that I know about the Christmas holiday that I know are wrong? So you can see exactly where my misperceptions are. Mm-hmm. Number one, I know Jesus was not born on December 25th. That's number one. I think he was born on I think it was January 6th, or weirdly enough, or it was in March. I forget. Somebody figured it out by doing the astronomy of where the North Star would have been at that time.
Right.
Yeah. So somebody did that. So Jesus was not born on January 25th or December 25th. I also know that it more likely, I don't know what, but it has to do with the winter solstice, probably is where it's derived from, meaning the shortest day of the year, which is why we're doing December 21st, wink, wink. That's probably where it was derived from or where we got it from. And I also know that the Santa Claus tradition is vaguely Northern European / Germanic in kind. But that's about it. The rest has to do with gingerbread and reindeer and birds, all kinds of birds people get for the 12
all the birds
for the 12 days. Somebody actually figured out, if you do the math, it's like 164 birds somebody gets if you do no, it can't be that many because there's 12 rounds, but it's like 100 birds if you do.
Yeah, I forget how many.
It's a lot of goddamn birds.
Well, there's an episode of The Office where.
Oh yeah, where that's right. Andy gives Aaron all the birds, right? And she's like, "Why are you all the birds?" Yeah.
She's like, "Why all the birds?" She comes home and scratches on her face.
Yeah.
So Yule.
Mm-hmm.
This is a pagan holiday, and so pagans celebrate the wheel of the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's cycles of the year. So there are actually 8 holidays. Like we have 4 seasons, but then you have a holiday in the interim of all of the seasons. So we have what are called greater Sabbats and lesser Sabbats. And even though it's pagan, like a lot of Wiccans, which I am myself, and what I love about Wicca is it's like you can derive your own path. Mm-hmm. So yes, there is like a principle, but you don't have it's much more. It's nothing like organized religion where you have to do like certain things. So
and you do have to do certain things. So I had to go to church on December 24th, number 1.
Yeah. So sorry.
And you just lost all the Christian listeners.
Right. Ooh. Should we cut that?
Nah, that's fine. We assume if you're a Christian in here, you are curious. And I will say, as the academic who has looked in the history of religions, there is not a disconnect between the major Judeo-Christian religions now and the pagan, I guess, religions. Is just that they're connected. They're connected through history and how newer traditions were derived. They're derived from older traditions. That's all.
Oh, they absolutely are. So literally, the origin or Yule in itself is the origin of Christmas. Mm-hmm. And that is my mission today, to talk about this and get you to see the correlations between what they celebrate now versus what they do and like what I practice.
I'm so excited to understand why they say Yuletide bullshit in every goddamn Christmas song. So that's one of those things where we learn about that. We sing these songs, go Yuletide joy, but nobody knows what the hell we're talking about.
No one knows what it's about. Nope. So that being said, Yule is one of the lesser Sabbats. So like I said, we have the greater and the lesser Sabbats, and the lesser Sabbats are related to the solar celebration. So it's all about where the sun is.
Okay.
So Yule is December 21st, and it is the longest night, right? So it's the winter solstice. It's all about embracing the dark and honoring the light within.
So I immediately have a question.
Okay.
Are there pagans in the Southern Hemisphere?
Yes.
December 21st is the longest day of the year for them.
Yes. So
or shortest night of the year.
Right.
So would their Yule, it would be the same day, right? It's just they would celebrate it differently?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same day, just honoring different elements.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay.
So we have the winter solstice, and it is December 21st, and typically Yule is a 12-day celebration.
12 days of goddamn Christmas on all
right?
those birds.
I was about to ask, what does that represent?
All those birds.
So you start on December 21st, you go all the way to January 1st, and that is your entire Yule celebration.
Right? Oh, that does make sense if there's a 12.
Yeah. So we have our 12 days of Christmas. So I want to go into the different themes that we have in Christmas that are actually of Yule origin. Okay. So what's something that you think of? It's like the first thing that you think of Christmas. What's the first thing?
Christmas
like an
tree.
image.
Boom.
Okay.
Christmas tree,
right? So with Yule, what we would do is we would decorate a tree. And the purpose of that was you would go out and you would think, so this is December 21st. It's going into the dead of winter. Like,
Sure.
it's not winter yet, right? You're transitioning from fall to winter.
Well, December 21st is the first day of winter in the Northern Hemisphere.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're going from fall into winter. It's the first day. And at that point, everything's pretty much dead, right? All the trees. And what they would do is they would decorate these trees in the forest to honor the tree spirits and invite them to come back in the spring.
Oh, so it was an offering.
Yes.
To get them to come back. So was it a harvest issue?
No, because that's part of the life cycle.
Okay.
Everything needs to die in order to come back. But to ensure that they would come back, they would decorate these trees. Also, the evergreen tree was a big symbol.
Which is why we're always cutting down fir trees and not cutting down just an oak tree.
So evergreen itself that represents a symbol to like ward off evil spirits. It also brings good luck. So that tree in itself too, when you would decorate it in your house, you're honoring that.
Would the pagans cut down a tree and put it in their house as well?
Yeah.
Why?
So maybe I shouldn't say that they would cut down a tree, but they would decorate their house with evergreen, holly, and mistletoe.
So like a wreath and mistletoe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And like garland.
Yeah,
they would put that because it symbolized good luck, and it was also honoring like the tree spirits. And mistletoe is it's a symbol of love and friendship.
Hence the kiss under the mistletoe?
Exactly.
Okay. Question is, because we see wreaths, typically we see them as circles. Is there a reason why they're typically seen as circles? Is that a particularly important symbol in paganism?
I don't know if it's particular to or specific to paganism, Wicca, but I know just from my acupuncture background and like Chinese theory, the circle, it represents oneness. It's like continuing. It's, so if you have anything that's in the shape of a circle, you're inviting like a continuum.
Okay, so another question related to the evergreen stuff was the idea of a evergreen blanket ever a pagan thing? Or is that a more modern thing? Because there are people now, we've done it with my mom's grave. You'll buy some evergreens and you'll lay them on a grave as a blanket to keep them warm, so to speak. But that seems like something some people like 3,000 years might do.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So the evergreen itself, like I've never heard of that tradition. I can't really speak to it, but the evergreen itself represents warding off evil spirits. So whenever, just by you saying that, when I think of laying a blanket of evergreens on a grave, I would think that's to help that spirit cross over. Okay. And not be...
Protect them from bad spirits. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, all these things make sense. It also wouldn't surprise me to find that the evergreen blanket was... somebody found out they can bundle a couple of sticks together and be like, this is a blanket for your grave. You should get this for $60. Like, that wouldn't surprise me in the least. Yes, I'm cynical.
Here he is, our academic. So, okay. So we did the tree. What's another element that you think of?
Gifts.
Okay. So gifts, the giving of gifts, the purpose for Yule so I should say Yule ties back to Norse mythology.
Makes sense. It seems like a very Northern European, Norway, Sweden, Denmark type holiday.
Yes. And like Celtic tradition, right? So that was where it's very hard to trace it back. And there's been a lot of research, but that's majority of what everyone agrees on.
Well, the clans in Northern Europe they weren't intertwined, but like they all kind of moved along one another and killed one another. Like there was a clan, not a clan, but there was a people and maybe think of it, you were talking about the Celtic peoples, the Picts of the north of the Great Britain. They were in like north of they were up in the islands in the north of Scotland and everything. And for them, what made me think of the circles was a circle was a sacred symbol. Technically a spiral. A spiral was a sacred symbol.
Ooh, love spirals.
Yeah. So, I mean, it made me think, but the Picts were also influenced by the Vikings, and the Vikings were also influenced by the Saxons, and like all of the Northern European peoples, I think, I might be talking to my ass, but all the Northern European peoples, they kind of traded cultures because they were all just kind of fucking killing each other for a long, long time until you have what you had in Northern Europe, and that eventually it became, I don't even know what to call it, situated in, I mean, when I think of Northern European culture, the start of it, I would say, is 1066. I think that was the Magna Carta in the UK, I think. That to me is really the start of modern Northern European history. Before that is when I think all of the clans and all of the histories of the peoples up there is probably where this came from.
I tried researching, so I didn't like say anything that was incorrect. And all I could really find was like 1,000 websites, and it was basically all tied back to Norse mythology.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the Celtic people. But what turned it from Yule, as because they were all, I shouldn't say all, but a lot of them, majority were pagan people. And the German Christians were the ones who took Yule and made it the Christmas we know today.
I mean, if you look back at the domestication of Europe, I guess, or of the European continent, 15,000 years ago? 20,000 years ago? Because the first civilizations were in the Middle East. It was in the Fertile Crescent. And I think that was 30,000 years ago is when the places came together and they developed agriculture and everything. But it wasn't until like several millennia later that they actually moved up through Europe. So I'm going to guess 15,000 to 20,000 years ago is when the pagans started there, up through 400, give or take, when Constantine decided to be like, no, it's not great. Hear about this Jesus guy? Pretty cool.
Well, that is why you are our academic.
Yeah, I read way too much
because I have no idea.
Yeah, you never heard of the Fertile Crescent?
No.
Yeah.
I only know the origins of the religion that I practice. I don't even like calling it a religion. I like calling it a spiritual practice.
To be fair, let me ground your expectations. The only reason I know that shit is because I was an art history minor. And the only reason I was an art history minor is because I was failing out of college and had to tell my parents I was going to be there an extra year. So I said I picked up a minor instead of admitting that I was failing. So
that's fair.
Do not put your faith in me. It's because I was failing out of college.
All right. Well.
And yet I ended up with a PhD. So stay in school, kids.
Yeah. You are literally one of the smartest people that I know. So that is why you are our academic. So when we were talking about gift exchange.
Yes.
Right? So the origins in Yule with gift exchange, it was actually to honor the gods.
All of the gods? It wasn't just the trees?
Yes. No. So, yes, whenever you decorated the trees specifically, that was to honor the tree gods so that they would come back in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
But with the gift exchange, you were honoring just all of the gods in order to ask their favor for the coming year. So with Yule being the winter solstice and it is the longest night, it's the going into the winter season where everything dies, which we know is a process of the natural cycle, which is what pagans celebrate, right? But that being said, you still want to make sure that everything comes back. So you do these rituals to ensure that your harvest will come back, that the light comes back. So there's a lot of, like I said, this is a lesser Sabbath, which is a solar celebration in paganism and also Wicca. And it's honoring the dark so that the light will come back. So I will transition into the Yule log because that's basically.
I was going to say.
I'm going back.
I was actually going to. You wanted me to say Yule log, didn't you? No,
I did.
But I mean, were you trying to get me toward what do I think of during Christmas? Yule log. The thing I put on TV because some channel plays it all day.
Well, I know personally that you put the Yule log on.
My wife puts the Yule log on. Although I am pretty psyched now. I found out that like if TV has like I don't know what it is, like the Samsung cable or whatever has like a Halloween log and everything.
Do they really?
Yeah, they do.
That's awesome.
They do. They definitely stole the Yule log. So in like 3,000 years, the Halloween log will be the tradition. They'll like, why did that happen? And it'll be because Samsung Plus made it up. Well, tell me about the Yule log. I am curious about the Yule log. Why do we burn something?
So now it's funny because I also watch the Great British Baking Show.
I was going to get to that, but all right, go on.
So, love that show. And they usually have like categories of what they need to bake. And one of them is a Yule log. So it's like a standard dessert. And it's literally sheet cake with icing that they roll into a log. So
like a pumpkin roll or one of those things, kind of the same thing.
Essentially. Or a Swiss roll, like whatever.
Yeah, it's just a piece of cake with some frosting on it. You roll that shit up and eat it.
It looks like that. Harder than it looks.
I mean, I can't bake for shit. I can cook, but...
So some people now do like just a dessert and that represents the Yule log, but what the Yule log actually was, which a lot of people don't do anymore unless you practice, it was a log that you picked and you would burn it in your hearth or your fireplace, like basically the heart of your home, in order to bring warmth in. I
know all about that, my tattoo.
And to bring in good harvest and like basically like the spring, right? You want things to grow. And it's also a representation, because it is the longest night, the Yule log, while it burns in your hearth, it's a representation of the sun coming back, because it is the longest night. So you are inviting the daylight back in.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So is there some connection between the Yule log and, again, I'm thinking here, very, very, this has got to be a modern symbol of the Christmas season, but like Christmas cookies, we bake a bunch of shit on Christmas. Is that related to that, do you think?
It is not related to the Yule log, but it is related to something else.
Really? There's another thing? Well, did I just make a good segue without even trying to do it?
Yeah, you did.
What a good podcast. What a good podcast. All right, so tell me about Christmas cookies.
So it's not cookies in general. So when you think about like Santa, right, we leave milk and cookies out.
Oh, shit. I completely forgot about that. Yes, we did.
Right?
My mom was so good about that. She used to write a note and everything.
Oh, that's awesome.
She used to write a note in really crazy cursive.
Did she also leave stuff for the reindeers?
Yeah, we used to leave. It was always Oreos, because my mom loved Oreos. She used to take it out of that. And then carrots.
Yes.
And then they'd eat all the Oreos except one, and then leave half of one. And then they'd do something with the carrots. They didn't eat them, but they do something with the carrots, and there'd be half a carrot left.
Yeah.
And we'd always have a note that said, "Thank you so much for the carrots. The reindeer love them, especially Comet."
When we think of the reindeer...
That's interesting itself, the reindeer.
I know. So it's these... It's 8 or 9?
8, 9 if you count Rudolph, but
yeah.
Rudolph is just commercial.
So these 9 reindeer, like pulling Santa's sled, right? So in Sweden, actually, they still have the tradition of the Yule goat.
Go on.
Which I love. So they make this Yule goat, out of straw. And it's this big, like, symbol that they do for their Yule festivals. And it is pretty much similar to the reindeer. And the Yule goat is in relation to Odin.
Oh, that's right, because Odin has a goat that drags him around, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And Odin in Norse mythology is the Allfather, and he is a wanderer with a long white beard. And in relation to Yule, he is said to, like, on the winter solstice, he goes into the sky and he does the Great Hunt.
Oh, okay.
Which is where he finds the souls of the people who need to basically cross over
Okay.
into the afterlife.
Okay.
And he helps them. He hunts them.
It's pretty dark.
Yeah.
It's pretty dark.
It's pretty great.
With a goat.
Well, I've also seen some things where they say that he's on a horse with 8 legs.
I have heard that, which is much more badass. I have heard that.
You still have like the symbolism of the 8.
The 8, yeah. Is 8 an important number in paganism or anything?
I know in Norse mythology they have the 9, like the 9 realms of Norse.
What's interesting is that all these Christmas things, they're all multiples of 4. Like there's 8, there's 12. And I wonder if that has anything to do with the 4, what do you call them? Sabbats?
So we actually have 8.
Right, but there's 4
Sabbats.
major.
So there's 4 lesser and 4 major.
And 4 major, yes. I wonder if there's a reason for that. So the 8 may have something to do with the 8 reindeer. I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, the 4 are because there's 4 seasons, and then there's a halfway point in between. So
that makes sense. Okay.
That's why there's 8.
I also wonder if the 8 reindeer, if they correlate to, like in Scandinavia, isn't a traditional dog sled is more of a Alaskan / Northern Canadian thing, though. I'm thinking about the equivalent of a dog sled. Like a dog sled usually has 8 dogs on it. I wonder if the Rudolph thing has any kind of any backing anywhere, but I think it's probably just, they made a claymation movie about it. And, yeah.
Which I love. I watch them every year.
Bumbles Bounce.
So I was trying to find if there was a correlation with like Rudolph, but I didn't find anything actually. It was more of just like the Yule goat or like the 8-legged horse that Odin rode on, and that was kind of like the extent of it. There was no like a 9 symbology.
Let's go back to the tree for a second, because I was always taught when I was young that we light up the Christmas tree, like we illuminate it, and that the Germanic peoples used to put like candles in trees. So we put these electric lights in trees. Is there anything in paganism about that whatsoever?
Well, the decorating of the tree, which we might have mentioned, is about like honoring the tree spirits, right? And to ask them to come back in the spring. Okay. It's also to like honor the long night.
Sure.
And embrace the darkness. Like that's the whole thing about the winter solstice. It's the longest night.
But there is an element of the tree I'm so curious about. Why do we put a freaking something on top of it? Why do we put something on top of the tree? I was always thought, I think we were taught when we were younger that you put a star on top, because that's meant to represent the star that the wise men followed to Bethlehem. It's in Bethlehem where Jesus was born. Not Nazareth, not Jerusalem. He was from Nazareth, but he was born in Bethlehem. Yeah. So the star that he followed to Bethlehem, that was what that represented.
Yes.
Although we always had an angel we put on top, and she always looked drunk because she was leaning to one side. But that's neither here nor there. That's a fucking true story. That's absolutely true.
I was going to say pause.
Say what?
I was going to say pause.
No, we're not pausing. That's perfect. But no, we always put an angel on top. My dad sucked at doing it, so it was always crocked to one side.
Before you even went through that spiel, I wanted to ask you. Okay, because you were intrigued about the tree. And then my next question was, what do you put on top of your tree?
Oh, so we always had an angel, but we also, it's supposed to be a star. So later it became a star.
So what do you think the star would represent?
Well, like I said, probably for us, we were told it was the star that the 3 wise men followed to Bethlehem. Right. And I got all excited. So I think it would have been Polaris, the North Star, the brightest star in the North sky, aside from the sun. But the way you're looking at me makes me think that that's not right.
No. Well, so whenever we decorate the tree or if you look at the paganism roots, you decorate the tree for what we talked about already, like honoring the tree spirits. But then they also put gifts underneath, which we talked about gifts already, also honoring the gods and asking for favor for the coming year. And then you would decorate the top with a star. And yes, it is a star shape, but in paganism, or even in Wicca, it represents the pentagram.
Oh, have a look at our logo, listener. Have a look at our logo.
So the pentagram or pentacle is a symbol of Wicca. And it's a symbol of divine power. And it also represents the earth. And it's a 5-pointed star with a circle in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we decorate the tree with a star on top. I always like to reference the meme that I think is absolutely hilarious. And it's, if you are anyone who is decorating a tree with a star on top, you are practicing witchcraft.
Well, we used an angel for a while until it didn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So we were good Episcopals.
But even with the angel, like, it's a representation of the light.
Yeah,
right?
It was the idea of the angel. Well, even the angel we put on top was holding a light. Like that was the whole idea. Yeah.
And the star, it's a symbolism of divine power and manifestation, and you are like trying to bring light into the physical world.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, even the Christmas songs, they have the symbolism in them about, I forget the exact lyrics of and which song it is, but it's a lot of talk about bringing light to the world, like the thrill of hope, a weary world rejoices about the birth of the Savior, and bring light to the rest of the world around them. So you can see that connection.
Right.
So they took a lot of it sounds like there was a lot of pagan tradition that was taken and kind of imposed on the birth of Jesus of Nazareth, the Jesus of Bethlehem when he was born.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, oh, this is the Savior, because Mary was like, oh, I'm a virgin. And Joseph was like, all right, let's say that.
Exactly. So why I wanted Yule to be the first episode, not only because of the time that we're at right now, like we are in the holiday season, but also just to bring awareness to the origin of Christmas and give light to the spiritual practices of, Wicca, paganism, paganism, all of that.
Are we at the end of our first episode?
We are at the end.
I'm trying to think of what else there is to do with Christmas or Yule that I don't know that you haven't connected, because you connect. What the fuck is a Yule tide?
A Yuletide carol?
Yeah, what does that mean?
I think Yuletide is just like the time period of Yule. So, even though I know it's tide, like Tide.
I could totally Google it, but I have the expert in front of me. Might as well ask.
No, I'm not an expert in like language.
I'm curious. This is interesting that all this language made its way into the way we talk about Christmas now, and nobody connects those dots.
Well, if you think of Yuletide carol, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the essence of the time period.
Mm-hmm.
It's the celebration of Yule. It's the time, and that is what we are singing the carol about. And
what's interesting, you mentioned it, is that when all the carols about Christmas or the celebrations of Christmas, traditionally we celebrate Christmas for one day, December 25th, but all the songs are about the Yule time. It's about this time frame in the winter that we talk about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we have
the 12 days of Christmas.
That's what I mean, the 12 days and everything. So all these carols that we have, they talk about this longer period of time, but we only ever celebrate Christmas for like one day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they didn't have like Black Friday and shit to make these long times
to monetize on.
It's the American way, baby.
Yeah.
Monetize.
Exactly.
So Yule's gone from a pagan holiday to a Christian holiday to a Target
to
holiday.
A Best Buy holiday.
I'll be honest though, I need a new computer. I might need to go over there on Friday.
My god!
All right. So we've wrapped Yule. I've learned a little bit about Yule.
Yeah.
I will say there's not like a empirical way to study Yule, to study Christmas. Is kind of the way I've understood it.
Mm-hmm.
But I never knew some of the bullshit that we talked about over Christmas period, where it came from, like the 12 days and the tree and everything else. And I'm sure we'll get to it, but what keeps coming to mind is like the Easter Bunny and things like that. There's all these little symbols that we have that I have no idea where they come from.
Oh, I can't wait to get to that episode.
But we got a little. That's our third episode, right?
No.
That's our second episode?
No. Our next episode is tarot.
Oh, you're right. We're jumping around.
Yeah. So we have, which we talked about in our intro episode, we have mini series. So we have 3 pagan holidays that we're doing. We have 3 things on like rituals and witchcraft, 3 things on non-Western medicine, and then 3 things on the metaphysical. So
I would say non-traditional medicine because we have an esketamine.
Oh.
We have an esketamine, which is becoming traditional.
True.
But yeah, then that's where I think the metaphysical and the empirical come together. It's gonna be so much fun.
Well, that's definitely Western. So you're right. And yeah, so that's what we have. So our next episode is actually going to be on tarot, where Kurt will be getting a tarot reading live on the podcast, and we will see if we can even more broaden his horizons. My
horizons have been broadened a little bit here. Yeah. Becca's ruined Christmas for me a little bit, but I know more about it now.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us. We are the Alchemist and
the Academic.
And we are so happy to have you listening, and we hope that you tune in next time for our tarot episode, where
I will be much more critical of what's going on, but also will be much more interested in what the metaphysical has to say for me.
Yes.
Thank you for tuning in. It's been great.
Thank you, listener.